allegiance to the flag for which
roll call.
Jim Nickel.
Judy Youngworth.
Thomas.
John Goggin.
Bayhan.
Niagara. Mike excused.
Yes, he had emailed us in and said he had a doctor's appointment. Of the minutes from October, I know it's been a couple months.
November, I think.
Actually, November 16th.
November 16th.
I make a motion to approve them.
I'll second.
What comment? Someone here. Good morning.
Yep, say your name.
Yes, it is. Hi, my name is Karen Woodson. I'm a resident of Fort Myers Beach. My husband is also here with me, and we live 2 blocks from the main intersection at Times Square. So I know what the meaning of having that intersection and the new lights and the walk signals and everything else, but it's not working. There are so many people that pay no attention to the crosswalk sign. I don't know if we can get something more in their face, signs for walking across, more safety issues. I mean, people are still just running through there like not paying any attention to the lights. The second pedestrian area that has been a nightmare for quite some time is in front of the Lani Kai and Yo Taco. And I know we've talked about it, we've brought it up about putting some type of fencing, attractive fencing along Estero Boulevard, something that is going to block people from just walking out onto Estero from both sides. It's not just the Lani Kai side, it's the Yo Taco. Yo Taco practically stand in the street, and there's a line late at night, and you can't get through there. And hopefully, when they do the whole restructuring of the traffic patterns, they'll also address that left-hand turn going north on Estero to the north end of the island, again, right at Times Square, because now that we have the light, now then people are trying to make a left-hand turn, they're coming in off the bridge, trying to make a right-hand turn. It's a total bottleneck there, and so I don't know if that left-hand turn can be done away with, maybe for now go around the lighthouse and around that way to turn into a right-hand turn. It's just very troublesome, very, very troublesome. So whatever you guys can do to address that and bring it to the town council, that would be great.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen. I have to agree. I'm bringing it up at our Lee County Sheriff's update.
Good morning, Lieutenant Mark Bernard, Lee County Sheriff's Office. First off, we had an event-free New Year's Eve. It went very well. We had adequate manpower out there. We had our local command center out there, jail van, one of our tethered drones. Everybody was very friendly. We had no arrests, no incidents. Very well. Traffic egress occurred very quickly. There were a lot of questions from most of the people down there as to the traffic pattern at the end of the night. Most people thought they couldn't get off the island, and indicated that aren't allowed on. The rest is going to be both lanes off, and I think at 1:30 in the morning, everybody that was getting off was out. I think next year the only thing we're going to look at is pedestrians when they come off from like Old San Carlos. They felt like they could travel up the left-hand side going out was actually a travel lane, but we quickly remedied that. We got a deputy over there and got them all to the right side where the sidewalk is. This went very well. As far as a comment, on the public comment, that whole intersection there, obviously there's a lot of construction in there, so we are dealing with congestion of increased traffic, the new traffic patterns and everything the best we can. We have regular detail deputies that are stationed at Old San Carlos and then at the main beach light. They come out, as well as our civilian support unit is out there regularly helping direct traffic. But when you have just 2 people contending with hundreds of people, then we are constantly looking at that, what we can do to remedy some of that congestion. Obviously, and whoever is managing the construction of that area, I imagine they would be studying what would be best for the area. But we will enforce violations when we find them. As far as other crimes, there's no notable crime trends that we see. A couple grand thefts in motor lowers recently. Our detectives are looking at. Other than that, I have.
Mark, that intersection that's causing trouble there at San Carlos, the new light, is that where the congestion is occurring?
Well, as she mentioned, have an increased flow of traffic, obviously coming over the bridge. Have people trying to make that left, and when that light turns red, those vehicles stop, and now the bridge traffic stops coming in, and then also backs up. The traffic coming from Estero making that left.
That light that's right at that location on Estero Boulevard. I think that one's going to go away and stop that problem. I think the light's going to be backed up closer to the street comes out and right at the base of the bridge. The traffic would be stopped on the bridge, kind of vacant there from I think. I could be wrong about this, but I think that this particular year with both of those lights in operation, I think is what's causing a problem for us right now. Sort of the transition or interim period there.
I think it's going to be better when they get all those lights and crosswalks in there. Good luck.
Well, I don't know. Oh, it depends on timing, John. Everything is timing.
Well, I do know I was gonna say the FDOT meeting is February 5th at Circle by the Sea at 5 p.m.
I thought it was the 3rd.
Third.
Yeah.
The 3rd, and people can't left from Arrow to the north. That's held up, and if they're trying, and because there's a red light and it's still made. Got people just walking like they used to. They walk, don't cross anything. Alone, I saw a person I saw bikes, electric bikes riding right up the left lane to bypass the traffic. I mean, it's a recipe for there's going to be.
We receive phone calls daily, and I get phone calls on both sides. I have phone calls from people saying we need more people directing traffic down there, but I also get phone calls from people saying that's not helping. Yeah. So we're really looking at it and seeing what's the best. It's set up right now. It's not in its final phase. You have a situation where, okay, we have a light here and a light here. That's not the final design. So we're working with what we have, forcing things the best we can at the moment.
I have a question. Can you write tickets for people who don't cross when it says walk?
Right, it's a violation of traffic control device. Write a pedestrian citation, but our goal is to educate.
Right.
Be out there, educate. So the answer is yes. We typically just educate with a verbal warning.
Right? Go ahead.
Think people listen when you educate them, but I think they don't care. I mean, they're still gonna come back and walk nilly-willy across the street.
People turning over every week, so
Right,
they don't
and I
really
think maybe
have
if
the.
you enforce it, like write somebody a ticket, not that we want somebody to get a ticket, but the word may get out like, hey, you're gonna get a ticket if you don't obey by the don't walk sign.
I'd agree with you if it was the local people predominantly doing that because they live here and but I think the majority of the people that I encounter are here for 2-3 days. No, they're not communicating with the other people. They're here with their families and we're educating them as.
Yeah, I think they are though. There's a way that they can because there's like a Facebook page, like things to do in Fort Myers Beach, and people will complain on there like, hey, I did this or that. So if somebody gets a ticket, I would almost bet they're gonna go on there and say, hey, make sure you cross when you're supposed to, we got a ticket.
It's not what they're gonna say. They're gonna say that bad policeman gave
Well,
me a ticket.
right, but it's gonna get but it's gonna get the word out there that, hey, you need to follow the rules or you're gonna get a ticket. And you hate to make an example of somebody, but
I guess it's a fine line. It's a
Yeah.
fine line between educating, enforcing, and also we don't want to discourage people from visiting here
Right.
or put a bad light on what we're doing. I think it's if as a traveler, if I go someplace else and I'm not familiar with the laws of that area and I do something, I mean, I would probably be a little bit angry if here's a ticket for that. Well, okay. That's why we first educate
Right.
and our best in that fashion.
everybody should know there's a walk, don't walk. I mean, everybody should know that the hand signs for walk and don't walk.
I don't think there's too much of an issue down there with those signs. I think a lot of the issue is over on the crosswalks down on Estero, by Yotako, by Lanikai, where they go no crosswalk because they see other people. So our deputies are down there when they can educate, say, look, and New Year's Eve was a prime example. We were out there. Most of the stuff we were doing is people were saying, where can we cross? And we were directing them down to the crosswalks. We have a deputy down there actually stopping traffic and just helping them get across. So
Obviously have an issue, and we know that the lights are not working to their fullest potential, let's say that. We know the crosswalks are an issue. With Dan, we'd like to work with council and say, we're having an issue, and work with the FDOT, we work with you. How do we get this process started that we can start laying out an action plan that we can say, all right, we don't like the way this is working. What are you doing now? And we've got to come up with some solutions right now. Whether it's more signage, I don't think it's more manpower. I just think it's education. Is it bigger signage? I don't know what. And I'd like to know the best step.
The first step is you have to report to council that you've had issues with traffic pattern, the pedestrian traffic pattern still existing there with the new lights, and ask them which way they want to go, because they very well may say, we're going to talk to the sheriff and we're going to have them go and enforce it like Heidi's pointing out. They may also say, in their role as the people that make the decision, no, we want to continue to do something with education, maybe additional signage, something like that, or we want to hire some temporary resources to help the education, because that direction will tell us which direction
Should go.
recommendations we come up with.
Okay, then I will go to the next town council meeting. Speak to them. And
definitely think communication with DOT. Certainly attend that with DOT and talk to them. I know they have, they'll look at the lights and they'll go through some timing patterns and stuff and see what's. I'm sure they've done that already, but as the traffic flow increases, they have to revisit that and go back there and make sure that the lights are in sync and the traffic's not backing up, and that also with the pedestrian.
email me back. I've emailed them. I will do that.
What it's worth, Mark, I do think we're gonna have to, we're gonna struggle with this year because that pattern is not set up correctly. And until that pattern is set up in a way that's gonna work for the community, it's just gonna be a zoo down there for a while. I like the idea of putting signs out, you know, cross only at crosswalks and then arrow. I mean, people I think sometimes want, they're lost, that, you know, and that's the reason I think some signage could help, even temporary signage, just this season, just to get us through the rest of this year.
Fencing or barriers,
Yeah.
so they can't cross.
yeah, so
And
they
during
can't-
the- Especially during, in that, construction zone, where they
Right.
won't cross, they'll go to where it's open.
Exactly. I think we could really help that situation, because this is a transition year. And the other point I wanted to make, Mark, is I do think once that pattern is established and we have a permanent solution there, that a period of, I'm going to call it gentle enforcement, could go a long way towards establishing a pattern of behavior there. And like you said, I believe word would get out that you just can't go up there and cross the street willy-nilly. You can't ignore the traffic crossing signals, because somebody's going to nab you if you do. And I don't think it's, you know, it has to be anything terrible. But generally, once the word gets out, it will improve. At least that's been my experience.
I agree. I think signage helps a lot, because there were a lot of people asking us, where do we cross? And I mean, right in front of them, you could see the pedestrian crosswalk, and some signage, please cross at crosswalk. Something that simple.
If there's, you know, that would be helpful with an arrow to the crosswalk. I mean,
I think just at Times Square and then at Lani Kai, those two places are two places that are the
yes.
dominant problems.
I had one other question while you're still here. You didn't comment on the fatality that we had down near Wyndham Garden on
Okay.
Christmas
The
Day.
the pedestrian.
No, that's the one on the motor scooter.
Oh, the motor scooter, correct, yes. Motor scooter struck a vehicle, struck a.
Is there anything we could have done as a committee to have improved that situation? I don't know what caused, I know it was in a construction area. I didn't know if there was if you thought there was anything we could do, or it was just a one-on thing, and we'll do things sometimes.
People do things sometimes. I don't think there's anything off the top of my head that, maybe the businesses that are renting those out, maybe a little short safety lesson on riding those scooters. I don't know what they do right now, but just educating them on the Florida state statutes when it comes to riding these scooters or motorcycles at night. Education, as you put out there will always be someone that will try to take it to the level, and unfortunately, in reality, did have I thought you might, the most recent one was a pedestrian fatality, but that was up off San Carlos Boulevard, just a pedestrian crossing at night.
I do have a couple other things that is somewhat to Mark, but when you go to council, I think this is a precursor of what's going to happen when that foot of the bridge design goes in. They're going to need additional preparation, the sheriff, the population at large, so they should budget for that. When they put that new design in, this is going to look like nothing compared to what's going to happen with that. Also, because you'll be asking them, basically saying, when this goes in, you have some funding that you have to consider, whether it's additional policing, volunteer resources or whatever. But it also, I think, helps make the case for the community policing that we advocated for, because this would be a great example of where community policing would have been available and would have been utilized in that area to help people with the navigation. That was one of the strong things the community policing would have done. I think when you go to them to do that. Just a note to Karen, February 3rd is FDOT, and we're going to have all this. My experience so far in going through these designs with FDOT in the previous ones is one-on-one, they'll tell you what you want to hear. But if this is a real issue, I think in order to get the visibility or to get the attention of the full council is you need to get a group together. And whether that's like, if you guys know Facebook, you're on there all the time, you know, get a Facebook group together of individual citizens that are going to go in and state, we do not want this. That foot of the bridge design's been out there for over 2 years. And it was like they were stunned when they heard some of these things about the dual lights going away when they saw it last week. So I think we've tried as a committee to raise this, and it gets mixed reviews on what they listen to and don't, but I think getting a group together that talks about the impact of what's going on right now, impact of when the new design comes forward and what that's going to look like, especially if they start doing that as Margaritaville is finishing up. There's resources that are going to be required, and I think the voice of the people en masse needs to be heard more than, you know, individuals like you guys coming forward and saying this to it. It's just my 2 cents on that.
Don, I would just keep in mind that the next report to council is on the 7th, so I'm not sure if you want to coordinate with Dan so he could bring it up under his member items to have some type of direction from council by the time you report to them.
Adding it.
I'll try and get that final report on that traffic fatality, just to see if there were some things other than.
Okay.
I'll try
Just-
and get that.
I don't know exactly what the totality of the circumstances were there, and I just thought, well, if there's anything we could be doing, whether it's, again, additional signage. I think as a community, we're missing the boat a lot during season by not putting up temporary signage to help guide tourists who are here for a week. Not that they would always see the sign or that they would be able to read the sign. It might be blurry sometimes. But nonetheless, I think it could be helpful to have some temporary signage up in areas. And I didn't know if this was one that it would have helped.
I believe FHP was the one that was handling that investigation, so I'll reach out to them and see what they have, and if there was anything that was related to just the rider. Find out about that.
You can't do much about misconduct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Fire?
Committee member Scott Worth with the fire department. December, as far as call volume went, we had about 260 calls. Full separation, about 80% medical, about 20 property, fire and things of that nature. Fire, island, it was and
Not a house fire, Scott, or?
I think for significant events, you talked about the fatality on the boulevard, and I'll echo what Mark said. It didn't look like there was anything with traffic patterns or signage that caused it. It was more related to the operation of the vehicle. We also had a ski accident. So the safety message there is if you're going to rent equipment that you're not familiar with, you know, a little bit of time to familiarize yourself with how stuff operates.
Again, was that operator error on the part of the jet ski?
I don't know what the
operator?
final report was, but, you know, as far as the collision goes,
Could you give us a little, I know it's probably early, but a little update on what happened, what your response, what impact of the tornado that came through very close?
Sure, yeah, so the tornado that came through obviously touched down in Iona's area.
Immediately adjacent to the beach.
Yes, it was right on the border of just outside the beach's jurisdiction. Had units that responded as part of a countywide call out for services. So we have standing orders. In this case, a standing order, a strike team of engines was called from around the south departments in the county. Came into Iona's area and worked with Iona McGregor and countywide incident management teams to a number of events, you know, different locations where it had touched down. So Did make some rescues of the damaged structures. These were, and pretty much the rest of the day with the other public safety partners assessing the whole area like we would after a hurricane. Windshield assessments, but basically for the entire Anna McGregor area. It continued on yesterday. The whole incident is still basically open and operating, but on a scale. Tornadoes were enough that it opened Lee County's emergency center on a scaled down level, just to kind of coordinate all the resources into play.
This could be, I'm just a little ignorant. Who actually is responsible to activate the emergency notification message that went out at 7:35 or something in the morning? Who does that
The
between you and Mark?
alerts that go out.
On,
well,
on your cell, everybody's cell phone went off.
Right. So those are initially initiated by the Weather Service. But what
Okay.
they're seeing on the radars and stuff, they're that first alert to take cover and stuff like that.
Is that going through our 911 center, Mark?
It is reported to the 911 center,
Okay.
but that is a direct.
And it's directly
the end
from,
user from, National Weather Service is basically who.
it went out very early in the event, and it
Yes.
was amazed that really it went out as quickly as it did.
Yeah, they had some ideas that this type of storm had the potential to create clones. Briefings that that severe weather is coming, but we get public safety environment, we get briefings. But the actual, until that weather actually rolls through here, the band's on radar, but until they start rolling through, and at that point you start seeing the surge tornado. It's pretty good about getting.
As I understand, there were no fatalities, right? And I guess we will keep posted of ways that we can help the people and their giving them supplies and things that they need.
I know one of the initial responders is us, and us is phenomenal. And somebody has a fire and reporting them in the days after.
We can get Jenny to put on our community website where people can help and give back and help some people that need a little extra help right now.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Scott.
Dawn? On those two reports, both Scott and Mark mentioned additional instructions or education of the renters from these vendors of the different devices. I mean, we've seen it with kayaks, we see it with paddle boards, where boats, you go down, you got a driver's license, here's a boat, like it's the same thing. Maybe something to put on a future agenda for this committee to look at. Do we need to do more with, from a town perspective, in providing requirements that there be some kind of minimal instructions, find out what the state requires, find out, the county, or if they don't, what the town can do to provide instructions for safety on, whether it's scooters, jet skis, kayaks, whatever the boats, whatever they're taking out.
I was gonna bring that up too. See if we could come up with something, especially those little cars that are zipping around town too.
Councilman Alders is here.
Hi, Councilman Alex. Would you like to join us today? Thank you.
What happened here?
Oh, no.
Oh, it's not good. Okay.
Discussing that.
We're going to, town council cold blue update. I know we're jumping right in, but as of in October, we were on hold, and we're making sure the item was included in future agendas. And
Have an update
an
for us?
update for us, Randy?
As far as I know, I'm not sure town council has discussed it. A mention from Dan.
Yeah, it hasn't been discussed yet. There was conversations with the county about the shelters and the advertising, and just finalized that at the last meeting, so I'll make a note to bring it up.
Thank you.
Nope. Okay, homeless community outreach. I'm actually going to table this a little bit. I'll give you an update of what I have done. At our last meeting, I said that I would reach out to the local churches at their monthly meeting. John had met with them first. And so I went and met with all of them. They are coming today. We'll be meeting at a special meeting at 11 o'clock. And we said 10 today. No, 10 to 11. Thank God, I'm off on all my times today. I think we have a really good agenda set for this afternoon. And I don't want to jump ahead, but I think they've addressed a lot of the issues that we've had on our radar. And it should be an informative and educational meeting for the rest of the council, as well as anybody listening and for the town. So I think I'll just move on to that one. Bicycle lights and bells, town council update and distribution plan.
We recently just discussed that at the last council meeting about creating an ordinance to require the rental companies to provide the lights, the bells. Hasn't been finalized yet, but it's in the works.
Great.
Great, that will help, I think, a great deal.
Just this language that we had in front of us, just to make it clear that the state law talks about red reflectors is the only lights that they require on a bike, except dusk to dawn if you have it out. So just to write expectations. And this would deal with audible devices, but the lights we talk about for after sundown, that wouldn't be covered on this because that's not a requirement in the law unless you take a bike out after that. So the issue I could see raising is if someone rents a bike, doesn't take it back by sundown, who's responsible for that? I can see that conflict, so you may want to look at that when you're working with John.
Yeah, some of the wording that was discussed, that they're circumventing right now we tell them that it can't be out at night. So the ordinance that's proposed will cover that. It'll require it 24 hours a day.
I was just looking at what was written here, and this can cover it.
That's going to help a lot.
The next update is the public safety webpage and education. Met with Jenny, public information officer, and she is more than willing to work with us that we would design a safety page on the town website. I would give her bullet points based on some of the items we touch here, whether it's bicycle safety, crosswalk safety, anything. And so I thought we could develop our list, or I'll come up with something and pass it on at the next meeting. Going to try to keep it simple so that she's not inundated with tons of changes, but it'd be a liaison, which takes me to the next one. It would be the liaison with the fire safety educational materials. Spoke also with Jennifer at the fire department, and she handles all the PR there. She would be willing to they're developing a new webpage right now, and she would be willing to create links for us that, again, we would tag onto that safety page and educate people, whether it's renters or anything that we deem necessary. They're willing and very willing to help us. They also said they would love to work with us on a Fire Prevention Month, which is October. She said it's a little busy right now. So she and I will work on some ideas based on what their capabilities are, and hopefully we can have an event or some type of educational program for our community in October, and a nice liaison with the fire department. And then also on the public safety webpage, I did speak to Tiffany at Lee County Sheriff's, as I said I would, and they are really excited about creating a program for the town that we would have maybe a one-time event or a two-time event where she could tackle many neighborhoods, where we could talk about Neighborhood Watch. She would do a program, and neighborhoods could come, sign up, get their placards for their streets. And she just said she was going to put some dates down that work best for them, and we could get something on the calendar that would be a nice event for the residents on the island. And that's really up on the people that I spoke with. I told you I would speak with. Any comments?
Good job.
Thank you.
MPO meetings, Susie?
The MPO meeting in November was the very next day, and I had prior commitments, so I couldn't attend. There was no meeting in December, and the next meeting is this Friday.
Hopefully it'll be a good meeting. All right, member items.
I got two. One, is there any update on the lighting study?
Study or the,
Recommendations, I don't know what they call it at the current point, but those, it's been, September, October, November, December, January. I was just wondering if there was any additional costing, any additional specifics stated?
no, as you're aware, the council voted to go with the amber lighting on Estero Boulevard. Communication is between the mayor and the county now as to what the next steps are as far as paying for it. There's been no update as far as I know yet from the county as to what they've committed, as you well know, to the crosswalks. That's about as far as they've gone. So we do not have a cost for any lights yet. Nothing's been picked out. I believe that it's waiting for a decision one way or another from the county as to what they're going to pay for before the recommendation. We have not got a recommendation back yet for a specific light, if that's what you're asking.
I was, because in the past, we've been told the county really doesn't give us an answer unless we give them some costs, so I was just wondering if the contractor had come up with cost. Okay.
No, not yet.
The other thing is, this is my last meeting. We sold our property on the island for various reasons, and therefore, just off the island, and this will be my last meeting. I'll formally let the council, I'll send them a letter this afternoon. I want to thank you all for letting me work with you guys, and good luck on the outstanding issues that are still out there, because they're monumental and they're critical. And so I hope that you work with the PIO, whoever is putting out the announcement that we have vacancies here, and there are two, myself and Tom's, that it's more than just there's a vacancy on this committee. Actually put down what the committee's working on, why it's critical to the county, and to the town, and that you do have a voice, and now's their chance to get that out there. So be of a marketing to get the replacements for Tom and I. And that, since Tom and I were the last two original ones on the reconstructed one, you got my email address if you need some historical information. Just
Will be missed.
Very much.
Very
Very
much.
much so.
Thank you for everything you've
Thank you
done,
for
Josh,
everything.
really.
Heidi?
I just have one. I don't know if I'll just bring it up here. I know there was a young lady who went to get her mail on Sunday at the post office, and she walked in. There's a bum passed out in the post office, and the post office reeked of marijuana. So I don't know if that's an issue that we bring to the officers or we bring up later, but I know it's an issue, so something that may need to be addressed.
Postal employees present at the time, or was the?
No, it was
office
just the
closed?
lobby.
Just the lobby there where you can pick up your mail.
So that's not a good thing.
Like the post office might
Yeah, I think that
change
might,
their doors or how
right,
they.
maybe that's a post office issue, or I'm not sure. That I don't know. Okay. I'll let her know.
You could respond to that, could you not, handle that problem for the postal department?
That was all I had.
I just have one comment, and it goes back to, probably tags on what we were talking about, pedestrians and this light, and I don't know where it falls into the mix, but I think we are having a huge issue with the bikes on the sidewalks, and I'm not talking electric bikes, I'm talking regular bikers. They don't know where to get off and walk their bike. There is no bike lane in the most congested part of our island on the north end, so you've got massive amount of people walking, more than I've ever seen, even during our now slow time, which is not slow anymore. And you've got bikes weaving out, and it's not one bike, it's families with little kids, and they're taking over the whole bike. I think we need, as a community, to rethink our bike lanes, to rethink the routes. they're not riding through Times Square, which we've, I think that people do get off, but that traffic, it bogs down. I've seen, like I said earlier, bikes riding in the turn lanes. So again, it reminds me of the incident with the moped where the person turned into the turn lane and hit the car. These bikes are cruising down Estero toward Times Square, and I came out to turn left to my street, and I just zipped back in. I wouldn't have seen them because the traffic's so bad. So I'd like to bring it up to town council, which I will when I go the next time, but obviously you can add your 2 cents.
Well, I mean, by statute, bikes are permitted to ride on sidewalks, the wind-powered bicycles.
Right.
So, and as you have more visitors, pedestrians, you have more bicyclists, so there's going to be a conflict. There is no outlet for them, a proper outlet for them, well, then you have these situations where the contact.
Right.
So, part of it is an infrastructure issue. The infrastructure to handle that sort of traffic. If you wouldn't mind, I'll just show you, because I thought about this when I was on vacation. And I took a picture of it, and I'll show you, and it's phenomenal. West Side Highway. Like, traffic signals. Got traffic signals. The extreme, no bikes are on the roadway. Pepper.
Right.
On the mic.
You guys have very important stuff to say, people need to hear.
Right, so this roadway, this is just an example of something that was constructed up there, and it's a roadway specifically for bicyclists. They realized it a long time ago. Bikes are there, and it's just an idea. So maybe on the sidewalks at some point, designated sections for bikes and pedestrians. But until that happens, I think they don't know where to go.
I agree. I think we need to work with the town and come up with a solution, because riding on the sidewalk and sharing is just, it's not going to work. And that we've got to be, as we start getting busier, that I think there are some ideas that we could make work, even though we don't have that wide of a street. Come up with something. What?
Touch base a little bit on that. As Mark mentioned, it's not illegal for them to ride on the sidewalks. There is technically a bike lane up where you were mentioning. It's shared use with the road. Obviously, people don't want to wait in the traffic on their bike like they do with the car, so they go up on the sidewalk. We did get an update from Robert from the county about the green markings there. That is still going forward. Not that that's going to solve anything, but it'll at least help where they're talking about right now. Where the trolley turnouts are, or turn-ins are, they're at least putting the markings there. They're evaluating where the most incidents are to potentially add some more green markings there. As you probably well know, that north end of the island, there's a right-of-way issue with being able, that's why there's no dedicated bike lane there. So it didn't sound to me like the county was all that much in favor about adding a stripe down the sidewalk. We have bikes on one side and pedestrians on the other. Doesn't mean it's a dead issue, doesn't mean it won't keep trying, but it didn't sound like that was potentially going to go anywhere. As far as, the Boulevard will be completed by the end of February, it sounds like. They've got the sidewalks pretty much done all the way down. They're saying the second layer of asphalt should be done by the end of February, so the road will be completely done. You probably notice there's a lot more bicyclists out there that are actually using the bike lane, but we still are getting people that are using the sidewalk. Continued education, and I'm all open for any ideas people may have for the north end of the island with the bikes and the sidewalk, but I don't see a very easy fix to stop that.
Just a comment on that, because I remember raising that issue at the joint meeting with, or a report I gave to council, I forgot which. And first off, no one has ever, from the committee, suggested a stripe down the middle of the sidewalk. It was markings on the sidewalk, educational, almost like fair markings that said, bikes this way, 5 miles, pedestrians on this side, as kind of a guide. But I also remember, I believe it was the vice mayor, very strongly telling me that she heard from the county that if we put a stripe down, again, I don't know where that came from, that it would be extremely hazardous for the bicyclists because of the driveway up and down. I didn't pursue it at the time. We had a lot of other things going on, but if it's dangerous with a stripe because of those, if those ups and downs are dangerous with a stripe, if I'm on that side of the sidewalk where the stripe would have been, is just as dangerous. So I'm not sure where that added, but it was the council at that time that pretty much said, we're not going to look into that anymore. At least that's the way I recall that meeting.
Yeah, it was actually fairly recent that county talked about the, the unevenness of the road with all the cutouts and potentially causing more damage or more public safety than it would be good. And whether it was a recommendation from the committee, I guess I don't remember specifically if it was or wasn't, but I remember there was discussion about potentially adding a stripe down or some sort of marking on the sidewalk to differentiate between the walkers and the bicyclists. But again, I don't know that that's going to gain any legs and go anywhere with the county. As you know, we got to work. We'll keep pushing and we'll keep asking. About all I can do.
The problem downtown, and is acute. I mean, it's very specific to the congestion and the narrowness of the street there and sidewalk availability. Further south, I think we face a different issue with bikes. I think you see vehicles that tend to get into the bike lane and they're making turns and not appreciating the fact that a bike could be coming up. I wondered if it's possible, if you go on an interstate highway, how they put the visible markers on the edge of the road so that if you start to go off the road, you kind of bump into them and you realize, hey, I'm not supposed to be in there, and you get back in your lane. If it's any value to put green markers down that line that separates the traveled portion of the roadway from the bike lane, so that if a motorist were to stray into the bike lane, it's going to rattle their car a little bit when they run over those markers. And then at night, that's going to light up almost like a green light during the night if a bicyclist would be using that bike lane on that south end of the island, and a motorist would make their way into the bike lane. I know I'm not aware of any accidents we've had where a car has strayed into the bike lane, but the road's pretty new, so I don't know. I've seen cars do it, though, many times, just out thought. And also, it might just serve as a reminder when it comes time to turn, that you're turning across bike lane. I don't know if that's even legal in Florida, or if FDOT or the county would consider anything like that to help motorists stay in their traveled lane and out of the bike lane when they're driving down Estero.
I'll certainly bring that up the next time that they come in. Send them an email and ask if that's a possibility. The scenario that you just raised about veering into the lane, that I think is exactly what just happened this morning. Is what it appeared to me when I went by, is the car got over and got the bicyclist.
Yeah.
It looked like everybody was okay, but that scenario looks like what happened today.
I think we're only going to see more of it as as population increases during season and more bicycles are on the road. I just thought it would be maybe a helpful reminder to motorists to stay in the travel portion and out of the bike lane with their car. And also when they go up to an intersection to make a turn, kind of reminds them that they're turning across a bike lane. Bike could be coming up from behind them. Also, I think the bicyclist has an obligation to realize the motorist may not see them in their side mirror, and they shouldn't just assume they have that they can go 30 miles an hour down the bike lane and without regard to these intersections where people are coming in vehicles, because they're going to get hit.
Another thought, Dan, is those reflectors, those rumple reflectors I call them, that when you go into the median, you run over. possibly putting those along there so that, one, you have the reflector, but also when people do drift over, they get that rumple on their tires and it distract them from their cell phone long enough to pull back over.
I think
Yeah, that's
we
what I was
that's-
kind
That's
of,
the note I made was the.
that's kind of what I was
whatever the
trying
technical
to
term is.
describe. You described it better, John.
I also thought, is there a way that we could route the bikes so that as you're coming up Stero, right, as you get to Crescent, if you want to ride your bike to the north end, you're turning right and they're routing you down through a back street, and by this point, they're redoing those streets right now where you could have a designated lane and you come back up and you bypass Times Square. If you want to go to Times Square, there's a sign that says, left-hand Times Square, all bikes must be walked from this point on, and it just makes it that way. So you're moving the people who want to go this way. They can also get off the island that way if they're zipping up. But you eliminate all that bottleneck at that point. It doesn't really help from Crescent to Yotako or a little while before there, but maybe there's a way we can come up with a solution from there.
I think that's a great idea, having that bike route go around.
And again, it goes to education and signage and say, when you get to this crosswalk, you turn left, you're going to Times Square, everything must be off your bike, you must walk it. And they follow the pedestrian rules.
There's an individual, Bruce Butcher can get you the individual's name, because it escapes you right now, but if you can't get a hold of Bruce, that is all knowing on bicycles and bicycle routes, and this is his passion. He lives over on Sanibel, and is extremely helpful in coming up with solutions. So you get a hold of it, which Bruce can't before you let me know, and I'll try and dig it out of my notes.
Keep in mind that if it involves Estero Boulevard, it'll involve the county.
I'll go talk to the county. I don't care. Okay.
Public comment.
Any more public comment? Anything else? Right. Then we're set our next meeting agenda, or,
Roger has something.
oh, Roger? Sorry, Roger.
Morning, everybody. Just wanted to mention that FDOT is going to be having their public meeting out the foot of the bridge and how that design and alignment is going to work for, not only for roadway traffic, but theoretically for bicycle traffic as well, from Crescent through Kansas Bridge. So, I strongly suggest that you all look at those plans and provide those comments, because I think that's the nearest term opportunity to address issues from Crescent to Times Square.
It's February 3rd at Chapel by the Sea.
Chapel by the Sea, 5 o'clock, yeah. We encourage everybody to come who, like we said earlier, a comment on that.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add one thing that I had on my list, or two actually. One was to thank John for his service to the many committees that he's on. You're going to be sorely missed. Also, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, and you're here, maybe you probably have heard calls about people using the center lane now as a passing lane. And my fear is that I've seen it happen almost a couple times in the last week, that someone goes out to pass and maybe they're just going to be turning left into some place to eat or wherever they're going to go to bypass a little bit of the traffic, not being able to see the pedestrians or the bicyclists coming across at a crosswalk. And I don't know that if it's happened yet, but it's just a matter of time that it's going to happen. I don't know if there's something that we can do to address that, or look into maybe that's something the Public Safety Committee can look into. I don't know if there's anything that we can do legally to stop that without seeing them doing it. There's not a lot you can do, but I'm afraid that call is going to come one day sooner than later, that someone's going to be the unfortunate person going through the crosswalk when that happens.
Our deputies are down there, obviously enforcing the traffic statutes. The only thing I could think of is center lane vehicles are if you're in the center lane and you're approaching a crosswalk, perhaps marking maybe below hashtags up to warning the motorist that you're approaching a crosswalk, to be cautious. So, I mean,
You mean in the center lane?
actually in the center lane,
Well, there's two issues that I think I've seen while sitting in hours of traffic. Some people will actually try to use that to circumvent traffic, and they'll zip up that center lane, which is exceedingly dangerous, and enforcement action is the answer.
correct, that's just enforcement.
Then there are people that are, they're gonna turn left into a restaurant, it's not too far up, and they're saying, I think I can just go up and turn left into that restaurant. And to me, that doesn't seem so egregious, as long as they go slow and pay attention, but I think the idea what you're suggesting, Mark, could be very helpful, even in those circumstances. The other guy, you're not gonna help him, you need to enforce him.
I mean, one's enforcement, the other one is just gonna warning the motorists that there is a crosswalk. I mean, there are signs there, obviously.
Right. There's a lot going on when you're coming down Estero Boulevard, particularly on a trafficy day when you're sitting in traffic. Pedestrians, bicyclists, dogs, cars,
Name it, everything.
planes, it's all happening at once.
I do think what's on the road in front of a driver catches their attention more than the signage to the sides.
Agree.
Bicycle lanes where they are marking them in green, catch your eye. So if there is a warning strip or something up the median or the turn lane, on the bricks, approaching, that could help.
I think you're right.
That's something we have to go to the county for, though, correct?
Oh, yeah, it's on my list of
Okay.
several things to ask.
Thanks, Stan.
Hey,
Just one parting shot on that design of the bridge. I think for the first time as the public, I heard that they are not sure they can put the sidewalk on the north end. They're looking into the bridge construction. But when I looked at that, maybe it's the first time the council heard it too, they now, by design, if they can't do that, are directing all foot traffic coming over across that bridge away from Times Square. So to get to Times Square, you have to cross at that foot of the bridge one of those multiple crosswalks. So by design, they are now putting the mass into there instead of fixing that, instead of changing it around. That was just a parting shot. But
I don't know if you were able to catch the meeting, but I believe that the consultant was very well aware that none of the council members were very happy with potential new designs. So made a note. I think he'll go back and see what he could do, but it's my understanding that it's going to come down to the integrity of the bridge as to what they can do there. So as Roger said, February 3rd will be a very important meeting for anyone that has concerns to get out and speak your thoughts.
this meeting is on,
February 2nd.
on that day.
It had to be moved due to repairs to the.
What date are you
Is there
looking
any
at?
way we could move it after the repairs?
Yeah, that's something we can look into. I'm not sure if that
Is okay
cuts
with
into the
that?
next.
Plus, I'd like to
agenda.
get through the February meeting. I mean, there's a few other meetings I'd like to address, because otherwise, it's only 2 weeks.
February 2nd, yeah, that's,
That's not helpful.
So could you give us another day later in the date that we
I can
can?
email you the availability of the chambers.
Be great,
Okay,
because I
we'll look to hear
am
from you.
not home here.
yeah, that's only weeks.
Okay, so you'll do that, wonderful. And I think that's it.
Make
Well,
a motion to adjourn.
okay. Thank you. We'll take a little break, and then we'll have everybody